Okay, let's talk about tuning something that most people don't tune or think that they need to tune, but you may if you have larger injectors, and you can if you notice your spikes in your log on your wideband are going excessively lean and rich after changing and tuning everything else. This just be kind of an interesting experiment to find out if you need to do it, especially if you're, like I said, your spikes are going excessively rich or lean, above 10% rich or lean on your logs, and then you can adjust this to help keep it from spiking so much, keep it nice and even. So I changed a lot on my platform because it starts off, especially the switching, it starts off crazy like that. And I'm not exactly sure why, but I changed this to 450 straight across the board. Now I have a very different setup than OE, obviously, larger turbo, larger injectors, different airflow, and all that. So I changed this to what is considered the perfect burn in the narrow band field, which is 450 millivolts. It could be closer to 500. It could be closer to 400. That's why it's a narrow band. It's up in the air. So I changed it to 450 across the board for all airflow modes. Next, I changed the max rich and lean, and yeah, I have two of each, which is weird. Like, this is a min rich lean, and then there's also a minimum lean, and I made sure that they matched. They're only 50 millivolts higher than the factory set point, and I figured that was probably enough just to see how it would work out, and it worked out pretty well. Was I just went up 50 millivolts, and I think that's for two things. First of all, I think it's for a cap where it's going to switch back in either direction, and I also think it's also for the long term fueling over time. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. It does say two different things under the table, but I just made sure that they were equal. Next was the uh, proportional gain versus airflow. I divided that in half. I just went in wholesale, highlighted the whole table, zero point 0.5 multiply, and then divided the whole thing in half. Even though that I have the millivolts set to 450, it was just a good test to start out with and see how that would work, and it seemed to work pretty well. Next, I modified the cold offsets and the cold multiplier because of my larger cam, and I just wanted it to try to stay a little bit richer while it was cold. So I tried to figure out what made sense, and just ended up with, I think, a quarter of what it was. Or no, I did a quarter from one, dividing a quarter of it out, or rather 75% of it out, just to keep it rich in the cold. Uh, I'm not sure how much that helped. My last cold start was pretty great, actually, which I got a video coming for that. It requires a lot of editing. I got HP tuners uh, video, I got phone video, I got video from the camera, and audio and all kinds of stuff. I gotta figure out how to stitch all that together. And as you know, I'm not an editing person. I usually just make a video and throw it up. So that's going to be some time for that cold start with all the stuff I got to stitch together. But this one I just tried to figure out the best I could, and I think most of it is like divided by 75% off. Not necessary for most applications. Now, the error gain, what I started out with is I cut the table in half, and then that didn't really work. My spikes were still way over 10% lean and way over 10% rich, so I divided the number, which I believe is 0.045. I divided that in half, and then I took off, I think, another 10 points or so for this number right here at the end, which is 8%. I believe this top one is percentage in millivolt difference from what it's desiring. I believe. I'm not sure. And then I highlighted the whole chart, and then I hit interpolate to make it linear. So that was linear. And that was great. Now, the one thing you want to do is whatever this number is, and I'm not sure you want to do this or need to do this, but what I did was I took that number and put that in the limit field, and I limited it to 32.32, which is twice the error gain. So it all seems to work. I would show you a log file from before and now, except I can't pin down a log file from before the changes because I didn't type in what they were. I'd have to pull up a log file from last year, and I wasn't recording millivolts in the logger, so there's no way for me to see what happened and demonstrate it because of the way I was logging last year. I wasn't logging switching voltage, and I wasn't logging a lot of things that I'm logging now. And I just know that my current tune, my current logs, when I go out and drive, my spikes are no longer over 10% and they're not under 10% most of the time. I mean, obviously, if you spike the throttle open, snap it shut, well, basically spiking the throttle, it's gonna spike a little bit, but they're much more even now. And on top of being more even, they are when you're smooth state, steady state driving, it's, if you look at the wideband, it's like right on lambda, just right across, barely goes up and over lambda, just nice and neat. So that's some of the stuff I did with my closed loop tuning. And I got another video coming real soon, so stick around.